So Wednesday night, we drove down to Atlanta to watch Atlanta United 2 because they were hosting Rio Grande Valley, which, of course, Ricky Ruiz and Jonathan Ricketts from last year's squad, both playing there. Both got to play, had good games. The Ricketts family outnumbered the Atlanta United 2 fans. But there was a couple other kids from the Chattanooga Red Wolves Academy, along with my son. And so there were a small group of Atlanta United who were the supporter group. They were playing drums, they were chanting, they were picking on Rio Grande Valley players. And the 5 or 6 kids from the Chattanooga Red Wolves Academy were immediately jumping to Jono's defense and Ricky's defense and going back and forth with the grown men. And someone made a comment that it was pretty funny how those grown men were getting completely roasted by the Goonies.
Soccer chat with 2 T's because we're going to chat about soccer, but we're also in Chattanooga. So it's like a play on words. And, Chattanooga is a soccer city.
All right, so
Hey.
welcome to episode 2 of this week.
I'm exhausted.
All right, so Alex, I'm going to start us off by asking a little bit more about that game that you went and saw former Red Wolves players that are now in championship for Rio Grande. Can you tell us a little bit about what the play difference was going to a live championship game, even though they were playing an MLS2 team, which any of our listeners that have previously watched MLS2 teams that were in League One know that's hit or miss on how good they are, and I think right now Atlanta United's mostly miss. What was your impressions of the play?
So one of the things to keep in mind that fans were telling us on the way out, because they actually, they were going back and forth with the academy kids, but they thought it was awesome, and they were really good sports, especially after the game for all that.
Cool.
Most of Atlanta United 2 is actually playing with Atlanta United 1 because a good chunk of Atlanta United 1 is on injured reserve. So there were a couple of kids who probably were not able to drive themselves to that Atlanta United 2 game
Oh wow.
playing. I think the quality there's a little bit, it's a little bit faster. We've played Atlanta United 2 through the preseason, and there again, there's not a lot you can take from preseason, but we do normally win those games against them. RGV jumped out to a 2-goal lead. Atlanta United scored 3 unanswered, and then RGV answered again on their own. Ended up winning in a goal at stoppage time. I don't feel like there was a huge gap between Championship and League One. Neither of these teams, Rio Grande Valley is pretty good. It's pretty well spread out in the Western Conference, but they're not at the very top of that division. We all know that the East is kind of top heavy with 3 or 4 teams. Atlanta United 2 is not one of those. So this was kind of a lower level championship game. I think it was pretty close. Like I said, Ricky Ruiz, he came off the bench. I think he made a very positive impact. He's played every game for Rio Grande Valley so far this year. Jonathan Ricketts, I believe, has played in every game, even though you could see he's wearing a brace on his elbow. He got subbed at halftime because he took a knock that required treatment at the end of the first half. So hopefully he's still healthy and able to continue to play. But those guys are seeing good minutes with the championship team that they signed with. So I think that's a good sign of what it is that the Red Wolves are developing, and that it's not that big of a leap to go from League One to championship.
So let me ask you another question. Was there a difference in the quality of the pro refs?
No, in fact, the referee who refereed Saturday's game between Greenville and Chattanooga was the 4th official
Oh
for
wow.
Atlanta United 2 game. No, there was again a couple of times where he was incredibly late. Maybe because I didn't have a huge dog in the fight. Like I wanted to see Rio Grande Valley do well. More than anything, I wanted to see Ricky Ruiz or Jono score a goal because it would have been awesome for their success. So I don't think I was as emotionally invested. But he didn't wow me, the referee in the championship game. We'll say that.
All right, so as most people are probably not turning in to get a Rio Grande Valley podcast, being that they are not out of Chattanooga and this is a Chattanooga-based podcast. Let's turn to that
Pickles Wade.
that midweek game. Have you got a chance to watch the replay? Obviously, you weren't watching it live.
I have not. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life right now.
All right, so this is going to fall mainly on me to give kind of my impression. So I'll start with this. We were holding our own the first half. The first corner kick goal, I think you could make the argument. I've gone back and rewatched it. You could make the argument that could have fallen on Tor, that he should have come out and punched it away. The second corner kick goal, I don't think a single keeper in our league stops. Not a one. I think that was just a perfectly crossbar ball, way too far for the keeper to be able to take it. What with too much power for him to be able to drop back and get it. You could make some arguments that that's on the defense because they allowed a free jump in to take the header. But once that header's coming towards Tor, I don't think he had a chance. And that third goal in that as well, I just don't think that's a goal that's going to be stopped by any keeper. That said, what did you think about the fact that at halftime, our coach decides to switch the keeper? That's not the most common thing you see unless an injury is involved.
Yeah, and they don't tell us until 3 weeks later if there is an injury involved. But I mean, I guess really our questions have kind of been answered, and I don't want to lay all this at Tor's feet. I don't think it's all Tor's fault. I've seen the highlights of the third goal. Um, yeah, I wouldn't blame anyone for not being able to get to that shot from outside the box. It looked like it was pretty well placed in that top corner. But I think our question was answered. Tor started the game. It didn't really change the dynamic of the defensive struggles that we've had. So I think some people are maybe being a little too hard on Tor.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a one person issue. I've had problems with Jorge Luna defensively. I think when they moved Devin Benton from the outside right into center back, I think he struggles a little. It's been frustrating that we haven't been able to get as much of Cardona in the game. There have been times where Capizzucci has looked a little shaky. And then you could probably move on forward of defensive responsibilities from the midfield that might help take the pressure off. Times where maybe we need to do a better job possessing the ball and building up a little slower instead of constant turnovers that lead to fast breaks. We're coming into a game against Union Omaha this Saturday. Literally, all they want to do is kick the ball long and hope that their forwards can get a good angle on a defender and get past them.
Which
And
scares me.
that's where we've struggled. You're right. That's scary. But to me, that means that in our midfield, with our wingers, we have to do a better job protecting the ball, holding possession, getting some tempo passing, and maybe a little bit of a slower build-up to try to take away the other team's ability to hit that long ball and get through between our defenders.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, if you're looking for a positive out of this game, Alvarez did come on and make a couple of good saves. I would argue one of his great saves in that game was because of a little bit of selfishness from the Richmond team. Like literally, it was a play where the Richmond player came forward, had a massive breakaway, made a good move on the defender, and had a one-on-one with our keeper. All he has to do for a good 10 yards is just make a pass to the right, and the other Richmond player had a tap in. But fortunately, when you're up 3, that's not really what your mindset is. Your mindset's score. But even then, it was still a great save by Alvarez. Now, I've been one of his biggest critics because I think he's let in some of the easy stuff, right? He's had some great saves throughout the season. That's not been my criticism of him. My criticism has been more about some of the things that I think should be simple saves for a keeper at this level. He's allowed through. He allowed a ball through his legs that just shouldn't have gone through his legs in the last home game, right? Or 2 home games ago. The last one I attended because I was
against
on vacation.
Fuego.
Yeah. Like, so there's been some of that, but if Tor's not going to be able to organize the defense any better, if the defense is going to give up opportunities that shouldn't necessarily be there, then you're gonna lean on Carlos because Carlos is better with the ball at his feet. Now he's not what the Atlanta United 2 keeper was with the ball at his feet, who seemed like he was playing midfield at times when I switched over to that game versus Rio Grande. I was like, what? This guy is like, he's not just coming up.
It was Sebastian Mora levels of roaming.
Yeah, it was impressive. So he's not doing that, but he does, and you've pointed this out. He has a soft touch with his punts that perfectly land in stride. That's going to be a strength he's always going to bring. I just felt like, that from looking at highlights of Tor in the past, looking at how he really looked in that first game, I thought he was the better traditional actual like keeper, right? And it didn't matter in this game. Like, I still think we lose that game 2-0 with Alvarez in there, if not 3-0. And I could always also argue that Tor actually had a couple of pretty good kick saves that I don't know if Alvarez makes in that first half as well. So I don't lay this at Tor's feet. And I'm not also saying that Tor should get the next start either. I think Alvarez brings something different that Tor can't. And if you're not going to get, your Trilk Mangles type keeper out of your other option, then you go with the one that's going to give you a better chance to start offense from behind. This is another one of those games where you really can't compare first half to second half either, because they're two different Richmond teams. That first half, you take out 10 minutes, it's an even game, right? It's basically a 10-minute failure from the 38th minute, 30 whatever they scored, 37th, 38th minute till halftime. And in the second half, they parked the junk out of the bus. Like, they had 10 men in the box. Like, it was not a attempt at all at offense, and which makes it even worse that we ended up giving up multiple opportunities that Alvarez did save, because that says even more about my worry of that's kind of what you see out of Union Omaha. They pretty much park a bus and then kick it over the top, and it created two opportunities for Richmond doing that. That worries me. Like, I look forward to our schedule, and I'm worried based off the defense that we've been putting out there, and the fact that now our offense has kind of dried up. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's what Greenville does as well. It's what's so frustrating about them being the league's golden child is, oh, we're going to have the team that parks the bus and maybe gets a counterattack and falls over so that the referee gives them a free kick in a good spot, is the team that we all want to worship and think is just the greatest thing ever, instead of the people who are trying to play exciting attacking soccer in a brand new stadium that they built uh, with the league, promoting the league in mind. But yeah, and so all these teams know, especially the way that we've been defending, we can sink in and we can clutter everything up in the box, and that'll frustrate their offense. And at some point, the defense will switch off, and we can beat them and see what and take our chances. And so it's not been good right now. The whole team needs to look each other in the eye and decide what they're going to be. Now, we had a rough time where we had the loss to Tucson and we had the loss at Greenville, and they responded well in that next game against Northern Colorado. How are they going to respond in this game against Union Omaha, and can we get that to carry forward? Because we had a great response against Northern Colorado, and then things kind of got right back down in the dumps. So we're at a point now. There is plenty of time to turn things around. We're getting to a third of the way through the season, so we've got 2/3 of the season left. I think you and me would both agree this is a team that we look at, and it's not that they aren't good enough; it's that they're not playing to their potential.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, but I also think, when do we start saying that we misjudge their potential? When we're 9 games in.
Yeah.
So if we look at the rest of this month, and we've got quite a few games left, right? In the month of June, we still have 5 games remaining. How many points do we have to get out of those 5 games for you to still feel confident that this team will go into July, August, September and be a team that is on the upswing, versus one that you're going, oh, I hope we make the playoffs?
I think you're looking to, you need to get more than 10. 15, of course, is ideal. Um, but yeah, we're gonna have to come up with wins in these next few games. Right now, I did some simple math looking at kind of points per game and where you want to be in order to get to the playoff line, and the average is normally about 1.4 points per game. At the moment, we're at 1.2, so we're below that pace.
Yeah.
We've always finished above that pace in our history. So I think here again, I think it's possible to turn things around to play a little bit better. But that's pretty much what you're looking for. We need to get back on that pace. And here again, the way that Coach Obleda talks, getting to the playoff line isn't the goal. The goal is to be one of those top three, top four teams that are hosting playoff games, hosting a semifinal, finishing in first place so that we're hosting the League One championship. We can all boo Jake Edwards because the league hangs us out to dry all the time.
So, you mentioned that points per game, and I haven't done the exact points per game numbers, but just looking at the actual standings, we've played more games than anyone. And of the teams below us, all except for one, if they were to get to 9 games with wins in those games, would bypass us. So
Mhm.
theoretically, we could be at the 9-game mark, which I think would be a good table to kind of look at down the road. Like, where did you actually go when everyone had played the same amount of games, like on an up and down scale, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, we could theoretically be the 10th team right now when everybody's played 9 games. That said, it still doesn't put us far from the top, right? Because it's really crunched up. Like at number one, still sitting because they haven't played since we last talked. Still sitting at 14 points in 8 games played. They're 3 points ahead of us with 1 game less played, right? And at
Mhm.
the bottom of the table is Ford Madison, who is averaging less than a point a game. So they're probably going to stay close to that bottom based off the performances they've had. I doubt you're hearing a lot of their fans saying we're not playing up to our potential. I think this is kind of what it was expected from them. Uh, they're still on pace to have less wins than Jersey, so good for them. Uh, but that's kind of my whole point. Is I look at these games in the month of June, these 5 games, and I say, Union Omaha's currently in 10th. Fuego, I think, is a lot better team than other people seem to think. Charlotte Independence is in first. Tucson's not great. Hailstorm, not great. That's why I think these next 5 games should be winnable. We should be able to beat Union Omaha based how they've done during the run of league play. Um, Now they've played well in the Open Cup, so the question is which team shows up, right?
Yeah.
But if you go just off league play, 4 of these 5 games should be pretty winnable. And I think you play Charlotte Independence, and it's an opportunity to show in 2 games. Say we win versus Omaha, we win versus Fuego. It's an opportunity to say that it wasn't because we're playing Omaha and Fuego. It's because we really are the real deal and we're getting it together.
Yeah.
So I think 10 points is a good number. If we walk away with 10 points, 3 wins and a tie out of 5 games, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't want to lose a game. I would love to walk away with 11 points, 3 wins and 2 ties, or better. But if we walk out of there though with like 4 points, I'm a little worried. Just to be quite frank.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the time to push the panic button if that's the case. And then it's back to the drawing board. I don't know. I'm all for patience with things. Here again, when we talk about whether or not they're reaching their potential, there are very important players who have been injured, who were injured, who are going to be away on national team duty. Um, you know, it wouldn't shock me if sometime in the next couple weeks we hear that there's a new center back signing with the team, someone coming on loan or something like that, short term, until we can get Daniel Navarro back and healthy. But that's kind of adding a wild card. It's not necessarily a guarantee that you're going to seal up what the problems are in the center back. It comes down to communication and kind of an understanding. So adding a new player to the mix doesn't necessarily make that better, even if he's a higher quality player. So we'll just have to wait and see what kind of thing happens there.
So let's turn to this game that is coming up on Saturday. Can you tell me the one player that you are most worried about, or that you think could have the biggest impact from Union Omaha's side?
Well, no, because I'm not ready for that.
All
You
right. Well,
tell me who
I'll
you
tell
are,
you.
and I'll do a
I,
quick look.
I'm going to go actually with their goalkeeper. I mean, the fact that Nuho is averaging such a low um, goals against ratio so far in 6 games, they've only given up 5 goals, right? That's pretty impressive, and I think a lot of it does have to do with he plays a strong keep. And we've struggled when we play a strong keeper. You look at some of the games where we could have won by more, I think, based off of the amount of buildups and the amount of opportunities we got, and we faced a good keeper. It's a struggle for us, and we are a team that really needs to get an early goal, I think, to settle us after not getting anything for the last 2 games. And so I think he could be the key component. If he doesn't come out and play great, that's great for us. If he comes out and plays like I think he can, I think it could be a really, really bad game for us. You're
I'm
not
just
going to go
gonna
with Alex Bruce, are you?
I'm gonna piggyback on you. There is, Soccer Chat's official player, Alex Bruce, who's been around League One with multiple teams, and he's a pretty good attacker. Um, yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah,
None of
that's
them
and that's fine.
truly scare me. This
I'm
is not your grandfather's Union Omaha. A lot of the player, Greg Hurst scared me.
yeah.
Vanacore Decker, really good. He scared me. Those guys aren't there anymore. So they've got the same. Rashid Nuhu is a very good keeper, has an incredible punting leg that can kick it the length of the field, and their tiny
Or
little
2.
stadium in their baseball stadium. Um, which is how they, that's the thing. They park the bus and then they only have to take like 2 steps forward and they're in the attacking zone,
Yeah.
or the attacking third, and so that's what they do. This field's a little bit bigger, but we've seen that unfortunately some of our defenders can get turned. So I'm wanting to see what's going to happen with those kind of long balls. I'm excited to see Connor Doyle, of course, one of the original Red Wolves, who's played with Union Omaha the last couple of years. Excited for him to come back to town. He's always been very friendly. So if you see him, give him a what's up. Don't give him too hard a time, at least pregame or postgame. And that's really all I got. I think that we can come away with a 3-1 win, um, but it's not going to be easy. And I'm hoping to see a good response from this team after the last couple of games.
So let me ask you one more question associated with our team on this. And I kind of mentioned this to you via text when you were there at the Ricketts game, as I'm going to refer to it, the Ricketts Ruiz game. We had a lot of changes that were made to start the game, and then a lot of changes that were made at half. What type of setup are you expecting? Are you expecting the more traditional one that we've been seeing, or do you think we're going to see some of those changes that were made? And I'm thinking specifically about not seeing Rafa in the starting lineup, or not seeing Luna in the starting lineup. Like, are there any changes that you're expecting to stay put, or do you think he's going to go back?
Yeah, I think he's going to go back. I think you saw those changes because it's a road game in the middle of the week, in between 2 home games. Unfortunately, none of these games were, teams that you kind of expect to be at the bottom of the table like they would have for Greenville. They would have made sure that that middle game was Forward Madison so that they at least had kind of a relaxed midweek game in between 2 big home games. Um, but yeah, I think the rotation on Wednesday was to make sure he had the fresh legs for the home game. Um, and the way that Richmond played, here again, I don't think he necessarily was like, oh, I'm looking to play for a draw. But I think he rotated a lot of people to kind of keep legs fresh and make sure that he's managing minutes for everyone on that quick turnaround from Saturday to Wednesday, and have people ready. So you're going to see Rafa in the starting lineup. You're probably going to see Luna and Capizzucci, um, and things like that in the midfield. The same guys that we've been seeing: Wally, Villalobos, Carrera, Garcia, and then your normal up front. Possibly Brian Beeman. I'm not sure. He was subbed out, I think, with concussion protocol, so
Yep.
we may have a full 90 minutes of Galindres again because it doesn't seem like Tashir is completely ready to play yet. Fingers crossed on that. I would love for him to be on the bench to at least give us a good forward substitution,
Yeah,
and see what happens there. But yeah, I think it's going to be traditional, what we're used to seeing, and the rotation happened Wednesday to kind of keep everyone fresh.
that makes sense to me. So I've got it as a 1-0 heartbreaking loss. You've got it as a 3-1 victory. Is that what I heard?
Sure.
So everyone should assume that I will be wrong and that Alex will be right, and then we can be happy when we're leaving the stadium on Saturday.
Anytime I get to be at the stadium with the pack, I'm happy.
There we go. All right. You got anything else for us?
I don't.
Well, then on
Oh,
that note, whoa, wait.
yesterday was helping Wolfman Jeff, who you notice is not here. I was helping him get some furniture moved at his new house. I noticed you were conspicuously absent during that time. But we want to give a shout out to our boy. Still working on getting things moved between houses. We hope he's back soon. We hope everything's going well. We love you, Wolfman.
And I want to thank you for not inviting me, Wolfman. Anytime you don't invite me to move furniture, I'm a happy person. So thank you. And on that note,
Bye.
bye.
Dad, you're terrible at that bye.